Hello and welcome to the sixth episode of Let's Play Planet Coaster. We're back in Park Utopia again. Very big, luscious park. We have 5 different themed areas going on for time of humanity, yada yada yada. And the main focus of this episode is actually going to be working on this, really pushing into the second half of the Enchanted Forest here. So mainly we're going to be developing kind of near this little water line right there and building the actual food court and building the places for people to sit as well as the area for actually buying the food in the first place. So as you see here, mainly the Enchanted Forest is kind of a quick reminder of what actually this area is themed after. Enchanted Forest is designed to be a sort of area that is, before human time, very natural, very I guess not really logical is the right word, but very natural and kind of resembling nature, not something that humanity has touched yet. So you see what I decided to add was this kind of little plus pattern here right in the middle. And I think what this element kind of gives is it gives kind of a very like modular area for you to go around and buy things. And so that's actually going to be where most of the shops are placed. There's going to be food shops. I'm going to put some drink shops as well as some utilities, including ATMs. So as you see here, what I decided to do is kind of lay out where I wanted to put down these tables and chairs here using these wooden roof tiles, and I did that by kind of just making a square, lowering it just so it's just above the ground. So it kind of gives this feeling of like oh, this is an actual eating place because the ground's a little bit elevated and it's kind of a little more distinct. Went ahead and put some tables in here. Now, one of the decisions that I kind of had to make here was what kind of tables I wanted to use. There was the option of kind of having these like foresty wooden tables, but I think that they almost looked too corny in the situation and didn't really like fit well into the whole like natural theme. You'll see that I spent a lot of time actually organizing these tables to make it kind of realistic. And one problem that I definitely had was it ended up looking very cluttered, which is not really the vibe and feel I wanted to go for. I wanted to be a little bit natural and a little bit like, hey, this is kind of what it looks like. So I think the side turn actually turned out a lot better kind of with having these very slanting tables here. While that right side now on the screen is just a little too much of organized. I also placed way too many trash cans. And I went back and removed a good majority of them later as well, and I went back and decorated most of the path area. But I think what I really wanted to have here is that, especially when you go to real amusement parks in the real world, you definitely see areas that are specifically cut out for eating. Like there's places when right next to a bunch of eaters, you always see benches and tables and things of that sort where people can actually sit down. And I think that was kind of my goal of building this area here. You see already, I'm noticing, holy crap, I put so many trash cans and I'm deleting a bunch of them. I'm just going to leave a few out on each side. Like, there's not need to be a trash can for every table. This is not the high school cafeteria anymore. So another thing I kind of wanted to do is I wanted to tilt some of these to kind of give it that more natural effect, because I definitely think that like all of them strictly together really gave it this kind of robust city approach, and that was definitely not the theme of this section. I wanted to keep it as natural as possible. So you see I'm going to be adding some of these kind of trash cans right here, and I'm going to start working on these buildings. Now I decided to do it. I decided to do it through 2 different buildings, and one was kind of more food based, the other one was more drink based, and they each kind of had a back entrance with selling something else in there. So you'll see how I sort of lay it out here in a second. One thing that I did forget to do when I was doing this section was I definitely forgot to disable the employee feature of the game. And when I was working on this, I was definitely having some problems, like making sure the employees actually do what I want them to do. And then they all quit, and I was like, this is annoying. So I just turned it off the saves game because that's not really in the scope of the project. Mainly, what I wanted to work on here was working on designing and working on the design aspects and making the park actually look realistic. Now, what I wanted to do for this section is also kind of trail with that little lake theme there and kind of go for this kind of garden-looking area. So as you see here, I'm actually going ahead and I'm adding the kind of those back buildings I mentioned earlier. I'm like, hey, I can fit something else back here. But you saw that I added those ATMs. And what I wanted to do with those ATMs is I actually wanted to, as you'll see here, I'm probably going to start right now, is taking those rocks, and I actually wanted to kind of build these like rocky kind of outcroppings that go with these different ATM machines. And what I think that does, that kind of gives it like this sort of, it's part of nature, it's all natural kind of thing. And the one you'll see how I kind of color the buildings and style the buildings, that they're very like they're small, they're minimalistic, they're wooden, and so it definitely looks like it belongs instead of like some big huge steel concrete building. It does not fit at all the theme. Again, working on some of these rocks here. It was definitely some of the problems because the screen kind of seeps through. If you look at the right run right now, not the side that we're on, but the other side, I had it seeping through almost all the time, and I caught myself later and fixed it. You see there, it's having the actual screen appear properly. But I think that kind of having these rocks here, and as you see, I'm going to start adding a bunch of greenery and shrubbery around it to kind of give it that more realistic feeling. And I really wanted to sell this as kind of like this, like like not high in overgrown area, but it's kind of slightly overgrown, like definitely overgrown, but a little bit natural. But at the same, actually fairly a little bit natural, mostly kind of this wild area that hasn't really been tamed yet. It's kind of what I'm doing all over the buildings. I'm going to put various flowers, various colors, things of that nature. So you see here, I put in all the time putting all these yellow flowers here. One of the major things that I found really annoying about some parts of this game is like, see, I'm trying to pick these flowers and you just cannot. Major problem with that. The point of that, I guess, is what I'm saying is that um, the game does not allow. You have to pick items from the base, and I think that really can cause some problems, especially when you place something like over something, and then all of a sudden you can't change its aspects and colors. And I think that's something that would be a nice implementation of the game if you could click anywhere on the actual image model that you're trying to change. You'll see that I actually do it different here. Like I raise them up a little bit, and then I'm like, all right, let me change the colors first before I actually add the rest of the greenery around it. So coming up after this, we're going to see me kind of build the buildings around here. And I think that the buildings actually turned out really well. As I said, they kind of had that natural, and they were all wood and that sort of feeling. And the one major problem I did have when making them, though, was the colors. I think that I just selecting colors that made sense in context and really kind of kept that natural, uplifting feel kind of going. Because it was coming out of such a, like, one of the two paths that was coming from the side that I already built was coming from Forest Lord, which is just, and obviously meant to be a very dark, scary area with not a lot going on around it. But, other area was Viola and Pixie Station, which is definitely a more happier, more uplifting, kind of nicer area of the park. And I didn't really want to make anything too crazy there. That was like a fear factor. As you see also later, fear factor coming, I actually do go ahead and place the Screaming Swing Ride behind it, which will be named Predator. And Predator is going to be kind of the last major ride of this area of the park. Now you see me here going ahead to the other building and putting on the rest of those roofs. One problem I did have with this is that you'll see that red building over there. I wanted to put a roof over that, obviously, as I wanted to put a roof over everything to really give it that realistic feel. Oh, by the way, props to Planet Coaster for putting in these kind of like shells so you can really easily implement having like some sort of barrier wall in front of any of your shops and cover up all the brick pieces of it and all that of that nature. I think that was a really good implementation, and you see here I'm trying to like fit the square, and it's like not working out for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that there, and I'm gonna put a little archway up here. So I think that's actually a really good aspect because it did actually characterize the buildings a little bit. Because now you look at both of them, and they're actually different, which I think is something that was real important. Skip a bit forward here, you'll see that I went ahead and recolored the buildings, and you'll see the big swing ride in the background, now coming out of the middle of nowhere. Again, that ride is actually called Predator, and I think that it actually has a really cool, it fits in really well with this section of the park, and I think that it provides that kind of balance between Viola and Forest Lord, as Forest Lord is going to be the biggest ride in the park, essentially. And then we have a throw ride kind of near it again to kind of keep it spicy, but we also have Viola, which provides rides for the family. And obviously a big aspect of amusement parks is having the balance of rides and balance of different attractions. Now you see me going ahead, and I went ahead and added sides to the buildings to clarify what's what, because I think it's important to kind of have that. And also, you saw me earlier, I had some ivy added on the other building, and I decided to go ahead and start working on the second building here. I remember mentioning this earlier, but I think Ivy is a fantastic implementation. And especially, I also really got started using some of these things right here, which are kind of these like wall climbers, quote unquote. Wall climbers are kind of designed to be more like, hey, we're kind of on the wall, and they jut out a lot more than the Ivy does instead of just kind of being hugging into it. You'll see that I kind of use those a decent amount here, get a little lost, but coming back here. Now, more or less for the rest of this video, it's going to be spent designing kind of like the sides of these buildings. So as you saw, I added the windows just to kind of give some of the buildings a little bit of flavor and actually not make them look as identical. So now I'm going to spend a lot of time actually focusing on putting some of the flowers, some of the rocks, like here we go now. So I wanted to definitely fill up all these little weird gaps that the paths left when I actually made all these areas of the park. And so first I went through and placed some rocks. I'm stuck mostly with small rocks because I thought this area would definitely look better as mostly green. And the thing behind it, Predator, I wanted to kind of cover in these higher, tall trees. So I definitely want to keep this area low to the ground. And those tall trees are very good because they provide kind of separation among you things, and they kind of give that, essence of I really am lost in the forest. You kind of have an opening, and then you're through the woods, opening, through the woods, opening, through the woods, etc., etc. That was definitely a major, definitely something I wanted to include in the park because I think that was just an important feature of a forest, and I wanted to make this as realistic as possible. See me adding all the flowers on here. I definitely forgot that, oh crap, I need to change all these colors. To kind of, I was like, just like I had that middle section, I decided to kind of run with those same colors, kind of that pink, that blue, or the red, pink, blue, yellow, and sorry for the lag here for a second. That's gonna lag a few times throughout this episode. It was just the park was starting to get turned into a big file and definitely said the problems. Another small complaint before I really move on back into the park, but Planet Coaster does have some problems with implementation of actually the game itself. It's very much not optimized in some ways, which can cause some problems for some, kind of newer gamers and things of that sort, and people with lighter computers. And I think that that's something that Planet Coaster should work on. But you see here, as I said earlier, I'm going back here and kind of adding all this greenery. So kind of when you walk behind these shops, I wanted it to be kind of festive and not just kind of be like this dark alleyway kind of feel. And I think that adding these, especially like adding the colors, is what really made it pop out. I definitely those really blended well with the building colors. That white green, that white blue, really were not these drab browns like throughout much of the rest of the area. I think that really helped keep it alive and breathing. And so you see now I've used a variety of these flower bushes. I actually really like those rounder flower bushes. I don't remember the name of them off the top of my head, but I really like how they kind of naturally have that kind of blending in tone, but then they kind of will like come back and sort of like those right there, how they're mostly that dark green, but then when you add it's just specks instead of actually the long reeds, because you see those long reeds and the other flowers already put in the game. So just FYI, next time we're going to be looking into Predator and actually finishing up most of the Enchanted Forest. I think that this side of the park's almost done, and I think it's looking really well at this point in time. Thank you very much for watching and spending your time with me. I hope you had fun, and I will make sure to catch up with you next time. Bye.